She declared a bond only a mate could cross. The human had no way out. Captain Elias Varn stood at the edge of the observation deck, staring out at the vastness of the Andari expanse. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, their light twinkling like tiny beacons of hope and danger at the same time. Humanity had traveled far from Earth, pushing the limits of technology, courage, and curiosity. Yet here, at the edge of Illyrian space, Elias felt that all their achievements might not be enough. The Illyrians were unlike any species humanity had encountered. Their society was governed not by politics or war, but by bonds, deep, invisible connections that linked individuals in ways that humans could barely imagine. To them, these bonds were sacred, a proof of trust, understanding, and interdependence. Crossing one was impossible for an outsider, especially a human. Elias had been sent as Earth's first diplomatic envoy to the Illyrians. His mission was clear: understand their culture, establish contact, and if possible, form an alliance. But as he approached the Illyrian city for the first time, he realized that the challenge would be far greater than he had imagined. The city itself was a marvel of architecture and harmony. Towering structures of translucent crystal shimmered in the starlight, reflecting colors that Elias could not name. Bridges and walkways floated in the air, held up not by steel or stone, but by some form of energy that pulsed gently beneath their surfaces. Illyrians moved across these bridges with grace and confidence, their bodies lithe, their movements synchronized in ways that made Elias feel clumsy and uncoordinated. He was met at the city's entrance by Lyra Vesh, the matriarch's envoy. She stood tall and poised, her eyes a pale, shimmering blue that seemed to see far beyond the surface of things. Elias felt an unexpected weight in the air around her, as if some invisible force was assessing him, judging whether he belonged. "Captain Elias Varn," she said, her voice soft yet firm, carrying a resonance that seemed to reach into his mind. "You have come far to meet us, but there are boundaries here you must understand. Some thresholds cannot be crossed by those who are not of this world." Elias inclined his head respectfully. "I understand, but I am here to learn, not to challenge." Lyra's gaze did not waver. "Learning requires more than knowledge, it requires understanding, and understanding requires connection. There is one connection humans cannot make, the mate threshold." Elias had read about this in the reports. The mate threshold was said to be a bond that linked two beings at the deepest level of mind and spirit. To cross it, one had to be a true mate, something humans could never claim. Yet, as he looked at Lyra, he felt a spark of curiosity, a question that burned in his mind. What if humans could find another way? The first days were filled with observation and careful interaction. Elias walked through the city, marveling at the way Illyrians communicated without words, their thoughts flowing in subtle gestures and expressions. They seemed to anticipate each other's actions, moving as one even when their paths crossed only briefly. Elias tried to follow, mimicking their movements, but he always felt a step behind. Lyra watched him silently, occasionally offering guidance. She did not speak much, but when she did, her words carried weight. "You must learn to see not just with your eyes, Captain, feel. Listen, understand. Your mind is sharp, but your heart must guide you here." One afternoon, Elias found himself in a chamber filled with strange, crystalline structures. They hummed softly, resonating with energy that seemed to respond to thought. Lyra entered silently, her presence calm yet commanding. "This is the chamber of reflection," she explained. "Here beings confront their own limits. Some see themselves clearly, others see illusions." Elias approached a crystal and placed his hand on its surface. A wave of images and emotions washed over him, memories of Earth, of his crew, of moments of fear and courage. He realized that the chamber did not show what was outside, but what was inside. It revealed the essence of the one who touched it. "You feel the limits of your own mind," Lyra said softly. "Do you see them clearly?" Elias nodded. "I do, and yet I feel that there is more to understand. I cannot cross the bond you speak of, but perhaps there is another way to connect." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly, curiosity flickering across her face. "You speak boldly for a human. Boldness can be dangerous." But Elias had no fear. Boldness was the essence of humanity, the trait that had carried them across stars. "It is not danger I seek, but understanding. If humans cannot cross the threshold, perhaps we can reach it in another way." The following days brought challenges designed to test his character, his patience, and his ingenuity. Lyra set riddles and tasks that seemed impossible at first. One involved coordinating a group of Illyrians to solve a puzzle that required perfect timing and empathy. Elias observed quietly at first, then suggested a new approach, one that combined human improvisation with the Illyrians' structured methods. To his surprise, it worked. The group moved in harmony, completing the puzzle faster than Lyra had anticipated. She regarded him with a mixture of surprise and respect. "You are unpredictable, Captain. That may be your greatest strength or your greatest weakness." Elias smiled faintly. "I hope it is a strength." Despite small victories, the mate threshold remained insurmountable. Every attempt to connect with Lyra at that level failed. Elias felt the invisible barrier keenly, a reminder of the limits imposed by alien understanding. Yet he did not despair. Each failure taught him something new, revealing patterns and possibilities that no human report could have prepared him for. One evening, as the twin suns of the Illyrian system set, casting long shadows across the crystalline city, Elias and Lyra walked together along a floating bridge. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with unspoken questions and thoughts. "Why do you persist?" Lyra asked finally. "Humans cannot cross the bond. You should accept that and leave it be." Elias looked out at the horizon, the light reflecting in his eyes. "Because humans do not accept limits easily. We see barriers and wonder what lies beyond them. That is who we are. I cannot cross your bond as it is defined, but I can learn, adapt, and find another path." Lyra studied him for a long moment. Then, with a hint of a smile, she said, "Perhaps that is why the Council allowed you to come. Your species may yet surprise us." Days turned into weeks, and Elias' understanding deepened. He learned to observe subtle cues, to sense intention through minute gestures, to anticipate actions before they happened. Slowly, the Illyrians began to treat him not as an outsider, but as a participant in their world. Yet the threshold remained, a line that could not be crossed, a reminder of the limits humanity had yet to overcome. The turning point came unexpectedly. A malfunction in the city's energy grid caused a cascade of disruptions. Crystals that guided transportation flickered, bridges wavered, and Illyrians struggled to maintain coordination. Elias saw an opportunity. Using his understanding of human logic and quick improvisation, he suggested a temporary reconfiguration of the energy nodes that stabilized the system. Lyra watched in astonishment as the plan worked flawlessly. The Illyrians had never considered a solution outside their traditional methods. Elias had succeeded not by crossing the mate threshold, but by demonstrating that human creativity could complement their abilities. "You have done something remarkable," Lyra admitted. "Not by following our rules, but by thinking beyond them. That is something even we do not do easily." Elias felt a surge of pride, tempered by the awareness that this was only the beginning. The bond remained uncrossable, but respect had been earned. Trust had begun to form, fragile and tentative, but real. As he prepared to report back to the Human Council, Elias knew that the true challenge lay ahead. Understanding the Illyrians was not enough. He would have to prove that humanity could bridge gaps once thought impossible. That thought both excited and humbled him. He glanced at Lyra one last time before leaving the chamber. "Perhaps one day," he said softly, "we will find a way to reach the threshold together." Lyra's eyes met his, and for the first time there was no barrier in her expression, only the faintest hint of acknowledgement. "Perhaps," she said, "but for now you have proven that humans are not to be underestimated." And with that, Elias Varn left the Illyrian city, carrying the knowledge that humanity's greatest strength was not in raw power, but in adaptability, ingenuity, and the courage to face the impossible. The mate threshold still stood, waiting to be crossed, but he had learned that sometimes understanding begins where limits are challenged, not where they are accepted. Captain Elias Varn returned to the Illyrian city days later, carrying with him not only reports for the human council, but also a sense of purpose he had never felt before. The mate threshold still stood unbroken, a silent challenge to humanity, yet Elias no longer feared it. He understood that some limits existed not to keep humans out, but to teach them to find new ways. Lyra Vesh awaited him at the city's entrance, her eyes calm but attentive. She did not speak at first, letting the silence stretch between them. Elias knew that Illyrians measured intentions in ways humans could not, and he had learned to wait, to let understanding emerge naturally. "You return with knowledge," Lyra said finally, her voice soft yet deliberate. And yet you carry something more. You sense the potential beyond the threshold. Elias nodded. I have seen your world, your ways, and your limits. I also see where humans can fit, not as intruders, but as partners. Lyra regarded him with an expression that was difficult to read. A partnership requires trust. Trust requires proof. You have learned our methods, but can you act with them and still retain what makes you human? Before Elias could answer, the city's energy grid shivered again. A series of disruptions pulsed through the crystalline structures, and Illyrians around them faltered, unable to maintain their precise coordination. Bridges trembled, floating platforms wavered, and a hum of alarms spread throughout the city. This is the test, whether you know it or not, Lyra said. Your ingenuity will either save us or you will witness what happens when humans cannot cross the threshold. Elias wasted no time. He assessed the problem quickly, mapping it in his mind. The disruptions were caused by a rogue fragment of energy from a distant star passing through the system. It interfered with the resonances that powered Illyrian structures. Their methods, perfect in stability, could not adapt quickly enough to respond. He turned to Lyra. If you let me, I can stabilize the nodes using a combination of human improvisation and your energy patterns. It will require synchronization, but I believe it can work. Lyra hesitated, studying him carefully. Finally, she nodded. Then act. But remember, the bond cannot be crossed by your kind. I will guide, but you must do the rest. Elias moved to the nearest energy node, his hands trembling slightly as he interfaced with the crystalline controls. He followed Lyra's instructions, mimicking her precise gestures, yet adding small adjustments drawn from human logic. Slowly, he noticed the nodes responding, the tremors in the bridges lessening. Other Illyrians joined cautiously, their movements hesitant but observant. Elias realized that his actions were teaching them new patterns, new ways to adapt in moments of crisis. For the first time, human ingenuity was being integrated into Illyrian methods, not replacing them, but complementing them. Minutes passed, each one stretching longer than the last. A sudden surge of energy caused a platform to wobble dangerously. Elias acted instinctively, recalibrating the node in time to stabilize it. Lyra's guidance was constant, her presence anchoring him, but the action came from his mind alone. As the crisis passed, the city fell silent. Bridges floated steadily, nodes hummed in perfect rhythm, and Illyrians moved with their usual grace. Lyra turned to Elias, her eyes wide with a mixture of astonishment and admiration. You have done what no human has done before, she said, not by crossing the threshold, but by reaching beyond it. You have proven that your species can contribute to our society in ways we never imagined. Elias felt a swell of pride, tempered by humility. I did not cross the bond, Lyra. I only acted where humans could. Lyra smiled faintly. And yet that is enough for now. You have shown courage, adaptability, and understanding. Perhaps one day the bond will open in ways even we do not predict. Over the following days, Elias and Lyra worked closely together. They coordinated simulations and exercises, blending Illyrian precision with human unpredictability. Each day brought new challenges, puzzles of strategy, tests of empathy, and tasks that required both species to anticipate and respond in real time. Elias discovered that humans were uniquely capable of improvising when information was incomplete. While Illyrians relied on perfect knowledge, humans could act confidently in uncertainty. This quality complemented the Illyrian methods, and soon their collaborative exercises became a display of remarkable synergy. One evening, as the twin suns of the system set, casting long, shimmering shadows across the city, Elias and Lyra stood on a high observation platform. Below them, the crystalline towers reflected the last light of day, casting an array of colors that seemed impossible to name. You have changed things here, Captain, Lyra said quietly. The Council will notice. They may even reconsider what humans are capable of. Elias looked at her, considering his words carefully. We have changed things together. I have learned from you as much as you may have learned from me. Humanity does not seek to dominate. We seek to understand, to adapt, and to create solutions where none exist. Lyra regarded him in silence, and then she spoke with a voice that carried more warmth than Elias had ever heard from her. Perhaps that is what makes your kind worthy of crossing the threshold, not through power, but through courage and ingenuity. The next challenge came unexpectedly. A sudden surge of energy threatened to destabilize the central crystal tower, the heart of the Illyrian city. It required precise coordination to prevent collapse, but the surge moved unpredictably, forcing both human and Illyrian minds to react simultaneously. Elias and Lyra approached the tower together. He could feel the energy shifting beneath his hands, resonating with the patterns Lyra guided him to follow. The surge pulsed again, faster and more erratic. He adjusted instinctively, relying on both intuition and observation. Lyra extended her hand, and for the first time Elias felt a connection, not the mate threshold, but a bridge of shared purpose. Their minds aligned in focus, a meeting of intent rather than bond. With careful precision, they stabilized the tower, channeling the energy safely into the city's network. The Illyrians around them paused in awe. The humans had acted decisively, yet in perfect harmony with their methods. It was unprecedented. Lyra turned to Elias, her voice calm but filled with respect. "You have done what no one thought possible, not by crossing the bond, but by showing that humans can meet challenges with ingenuity and heart." Elias smiled faintly, feeling a deep satisfaction. "Then perhaps some bonds are meant to be approached, not forced. Understanding, trust, and cooperation can reach places rules cannot." In the days that followed, the Illyrians began to treat Elias differently. He was no longer just an outsider observing their world. He was a participant, a partner in innovation. Exercises and simulations included human perspectives, blending intuition and creativity with Illyrian precision. The mate threshold still stood, unbroken and formidable, yet Elias no longer feared it. He realized that crossing it might not require romantic or predetermined connection. Perhaps the threshold could be bridged by shared purpose, respect, and ingenuity, the very qualities humans possessed in abundance. Lyra watched him one evening as he adjusted a complex network of energy nodes. "You have taught us something we did not know we needed to learn," she said. "Your species may yet change the way we perceive bonds and limits." Elias straightened, brushing a faint layer of dust from his uniform. "I believe that humanity can offer the universe something no other species can: courage, adaptability, and the willingness to face the impossible." The Illyrian Council convened soon after, observing the results of Elias' work and the combined exercises. Their deliberations were long, their voices measured. When they finally spoke, they acknowledged what Lyra had already seen. Humans were not only capable of understanding Illyrian systems, but of enhancing them. Their creativity, unpredictability, and moral courage made them valuable allies. Elias stood quietly as the Council's decree was announced. Humans would be allowed to engage with Illyrians in collaborative ventures, contributing their perspective to projects that had once seemed insurmountable. It was a small step, but monumental in its significance. As he prepared to depart the city for a brief return to his ship, Lyra approached him. She did not extend her hand as she had before. Instead, she offered something more subtle, a look of acknowledgement, of respect, and perhaps, for the first time, genuine connection. "You have done well, Captain Elias Varn," she said. "Perhaps one day you may reach the threshold, not by force, but through the path you have already begun. You have proven that humans are capable of more than we imagined." Elias smiled, feeling the weight of the moment. "I hope that day comes, Lyra, not for myself, but for humanity." As he boarded his ship, Elias gazed one last time at the city, its crystalline towers reflecting the first light of the system's twin suns. The mate threshold remained unbroken, a symbol of challenge and wonder, but he no longer saw it as a barrier. He saw it as a promise that humans could rise to meet the impossible, not through strength alone, but through courage, ingenuity, and heart. The stars awaited him, as they always had. And now he carried with him the knowledge that humanity could face the universe not as a fragile species, but as one capable of leaving a mark, of bridging worlds, and of proving that even the most formidable limits could be approached, understood, and perhaps one day crossed. Elias took a deep breath, the hum of the ship surrounding him. Ahead lay uncertainty, adventure, and challenges unlike any before, but he felt ready. Humanity had a place in the cosmos, and he had seen firsthand the truth of what they could accomplish. And somewhere in the crystalline city below, Lyra watched him depart, understanding that humans were not just guests in the universe, they were partners in shaping it. The stars stretched before him, endless and full of promise. Humanity's journey had only just begun. Captain Elias Varn adjusted the controls of his ship, the intrepid Horizon, as it glided silently through the Andari expanse. Weeks had passed since his first contact with the Illyrians, and the lessons he had learned stayed with him like guiding stars. Humanity had proven that it could adapt, improvise, and work alongside alien species, but Elias knew that real tests were never finished, they only evolved. A sudden alert flashed on the console. The sensors detected an anomaly approaching, a massive cluster of rogue asteroids accelerated by a gravitational pulse from a nearby neutron star. The cluster was on a trajectory toward the Illyrian home system. Elias' stomach tightened. Even the Illyrians' sophisticated systems might not handle this without help. He contacted Lyra immediately. "Lyra, you need to know, a cluster is coming. Its mass and trajectory could destabilize your cities if it reaches the system." Lyra's voice, calm but urgent, replied. "We have observed the cluster. It moves unpredictably. The Council is preparing defenses, but the anomaly's speed is beyond normal prediction." Elias felt the weight of responsibility. Humanity had already earned respect, but now the test was real. "I can help. Not by following your standard protocols, but by combining human strategy with your systems. Let's stabilize the system before it's too late." Lyra was silent for a moment, then said, "Very well, but you must act quickly. We will follow your lead where you propose." Elias convened a joint team of Illyrians and human engineers in the central command hub of the Illyrian city. The chamber was alive with energy and motion, holographic projections of the asteroid cluster, spinning in 3 dimensions. The Illyrians attempted to map the cluster's movement using traditional resonance patterns, but the mass was erratic. "This is too unstable for standard adjustments," Elias said. "We need a dynamic solution, something that adapts as the cluster moves." "Humans have developed algorithms for unpredictable systems. We can combine them with your energy nodes to create a real-time shield network." Lyra watched him closely. "Your species relies on improvisation. Are you confident this will work?" Elias nodded. "Confident enough to try? Your methods are strong but rigid. Together we can create a hybrid approach, your precision and our adaptability." For hours they worked side by side. Illyrian minds calculated precise resonance paths, while human logic algorithms predicted alternative trajectories. Elias moved between consoles, adjusting energy flows, coordinating the timing of shield nodes, and integrating human intuition into the Illyrians' precise structure. As night fell in the system, the first asteroid fragment entered the outer defense perimeter. Sensors warned of instability. Elias reacted instinctively, adjusting the resonance pattern to absorb the impact. Energy rippled through the shield network, stabilizing the fragment's force and redirecting it safely into the outer void. Lyra's eyes widened. "You have altered the standard configuration, and it works. Your species truly does not act as we expect." The night stretched on, each fragment testing their coordination. The Illyrians struggled at first to adapt to the unpredictability of human improvisation. Patterns they had relied on for generations seemed inadequate when faced with real-time chaos. Yet Elias' calm guidance allowed them to adjust. Hours later, a massive fragment, larger than any they had encountered, hurtled toward the central city. It moved faster than the calculations could predict, threatening to collapse the entire system's shield network. Elias knew that reaction speed alone would not suffice. He needed to inspire confidence and cooperation. "Everyone, focus on the resonance nodes closest to the center," he shouted. "Follow the adjustments in real time. Trust the algorithms, but trust each other more." "We can do this together?" Illyrians hesitated, but Lyra's nod signaled permission. They synchronized with Elias, not through the mate threshold, but through shared purpose and trust. Human improvisation met Illyrian precision, forming a network that adapted instantly to the fragment's erratic path. The fragment collided with the shield network. Energy surged through the city, nodes glowing with intensity. A tremor ran through the crystalline towers. Elias adjusted flows, balancing pressure between human-predicted vectors and Illyrian resonance. Slowly, the fragment's momentum was redirected safely into space. The chamber erupted in quiet astonishment. Lyra turned to Elias. "You have done what neither humans nor Illyrians could have done alone. You have bridged minds and methods. Truly, your species is remarkable." Elias wiped sweat from his brow. We only work together, that's what makes it possible. For the next several cycles, they stabilized every fragment of the cluster, each one larger and faster than the last. Elias noticed something profound. The Illyrians, once rigid in their methods, began to adapt instinctively, integrating human unpredictability into their responses. It was more than a tactical success. It was a cultural shift. Humanity's influence had changed the Illyrians' perception of problem-solving. Finally, the last fragment passed, and the system settled into calm once more. The Illyrians' energy nodes pulsed steadily, their cities intact, bridges floating as if nothing had happened. Silence filled the command chamber, heavy with exhaustion and relief. Lyra approached Elias, her expression a mix of awe and respect. You have proven humanity's value beyond doubt. Your species does not rely on the strength of mind alone, but on courage, creativity, and unity. These qualities, they may yet redefine what the mate threshold represents. Elias smiled, feeling the weight of achievement. Perhaps the threshold is not just about bonds predetermined by tradition. Perhaps it can be crossed by trust, collaboration, and shared purpose. The Illyrian Council convened shortly after. They recognized Elias' role in averting the crisis and formally extended humanity's participation in Illyrian projects. Humans would be allowed to contribute not only as observers, but as active collaborators, valued for their unique approach to problem-solving. Lyra accompanied Elias to the central tower, where he gazed out at the city. The twin suns set, casting shimmering reflections across crystalline spires. For the first time, he felt that humanity's potential was fully recognized. The mate threshold remained, but its meaning had changed. It no longer symbolized an absolute barrier. It was a challenge, a standard, a test of growth that humans had begun to meet. Do you think humans will ever cross it? Elias asked softly. Lyra looked at him, eyes reflecting the light of the city. Perhaps not in the way we imagined, but you have crossed it in spirit, Captain. You have shown that courage, ingenuity, and trust can achieve what rules alone cannot. Elias took a deep breath, absorbing the moment. Humanity had proven itself capable, not by force or dominance, but by demonstrating the qualities that define them: adaptability, courage, and empathy. For the first time, he felt that the stars truly belonged to all species willing to reach for them. The next day, he joined a joint exploration team, humans and Illyrians working together to map nearby star systems. Elias observed how the Illyrians now welcomed human ideas, their earlier skepticism replaced by curiosity. He guided their calculations, combining human improvisation with Illyrian precision to discover new planets, hidden asteroid fields, and resources that neither species could have mapped alone. In quiet moments, Lyra would approach him. "You continue to surprise us," she said. "Your species teaches us that there is more than one way to achieve perfection. We may yet learn more than we imagined from humans." Elias smiled. "And we continue to learn from you. We adapt, but we do not replace. We complement, and in that we find strength." Months passed. Humanity's presence in Illyrian space grew, their influence felt in cities, research stations, and joint missions. Elias' work became symbolic, a reminder to both species that cooperation could achieve what singular effort never could. One evening, as he walked along a floating bridge with Lyra, he looked out at the twin suns setting across the crystalline horizon. "Do you think the mate threshold will ever be crossed by humans?" he asked again. Lyra paused, considering him. "Perhaps not in the traditional sense, but you have already crossed what matters, the threshold of respect, of collaboration, of understanding. You have bridged the impossible, Captain Elias Varn. That is more than many could achieve." Elias felt a surge of pride and humility. He knew the journey was far from over. Humanity had proven its value, but the universe was vast, full of challenges beyond imagination, and he was ready to meet them. As he returned to his ship, ready to continue exploration alongside the Illyrians, Elias thought of the countless stars ahead. Humanity had begun to carve its place among them, not through domination or conquest, but through courage, ingenuity, and the determination to face the impossible. The mate threshold remained unbroken in its strictest sense, but its meaning had evolved. It was no longer a barrier. It was a promise that collaboration, empathy, and cleverness could achieve what tradition alone could not. And as the intrepid horizon launched into the endless black, Elias felt a profound truth settle in his heart. Humanity was not just a species among many. It was a species capable of inspiring change, bridging worlds, and proving that the impossible was only the beginning. The stars stretched before him, endless and full of potential. Humanity's journey had only just begun, and Elias Varn would be there to ensure that it reached heights no one had dared to imagine. Captain Elias Varn felt a quiet excitement as he stepped off the intrepid Horizon onto the Illyrian city's floating platform. Weeks had passed since the asteroid cluster incident, and humanity had earned a growing reputation among the Illyrians for ingenuity and courage. Yet, Elias knew the universe always demanded more, and today, the challenge would be unlike anything they had faced before. A message arrived from the Illyrian Council, concise and urgent. A distant sector of their galaxy, previously thought stable, was showing signs of rapid energy fluctuations. Preliminary scans suggested a massive anomaly, an expanding void of unstable energy that threatened to consume nearby systems if unchecked. The Illyrians, with all their precision and psychic coordination, had not yet found a way to predict its behavior. Humanity's unconventional methods were now being requested once again. Lyra Vesh met Elias at the central hub, her eyes sharp and unwavering. "This is unprecedented," she said. "The anomaly grows faster than our calculations can follow. Standard measures may not suffice. Your species' perspective may be the key to understanding it." Elias studied the holographic display showing the anomaly's erratic pulse. He felt the familiar mixture of apprehension and excitement, the same combination that had carried him through previous challenges. "We'll need to act quickly. I suggest combining human adaptive modeling with Illyrian resonance tracking. We can create a dynamic map of the void's expansion and anticipate its path." Lyra nodded, already assembling a team of Illyrians to work alongside him. Humans and Illyrians moved together in the command chamber, a living mesh of thought and action. The Illyrians provided precise measurements and psychic projections, while Elias applied human improvisation, running simulations, testing hypotheses, and adapting them in real time. Hours passed, with the anomaly's energy pulses shifting unpredictably. Each time the void expanded, Elias recalculated, suggesting adjustments that integrated human intuition with Illyrian energy patterns. At first, the Illyrians hesitated, wary of approaches outside their traditional methods. But gradually, they began to see the results. The anomaly could be predicted more accurately, and its effects mitigated if they adapted rather than resisted. Lyra watched him work, her usual composure tinged with admiration. "Your species does not merely solve problems," she said. "You anticipate, improvise, and inspire those around you to act in ways we never imagined. This is why humans are becoming indispensable to us." Elias smiled faintly. "We learn by doing and by trusting one another. We adapt because we must. That is what gives us strength." As the team monitored the void, a new complication arose. The anomaly's pulse was beginning to interact with a nearby star, causing unpredictable solar flares that threatened to destabilize adjacent systems. The Illyrians' standard shielding methods could not respond quickly enough, and even their psychic coordination was challenged by the erratic energy. Elias realized that time was running out. "We need to create a layered defense," he said. "One that uses Illyrian resonance for stability and human adaptive models to respond instantly to unexpected changes. If we work together, we can contain it before it reaches critical mass." The team sprang into action. Humans and Illyrians moved in harmony, combining skill sets in ways that neither species could achieve alone. Elias adjusted energy flows, coordinated shield nodes, and ran continuous simulations, constantly adapting to the anomaly's behavior. The chamber was alive with light, hums, and motion, a testament to collaboration across species and disciplines. As the first solar flare threatened the system, Elias acted instinctively. He rerouted energy through a series of human-designed vectors, while the Illyrians reinforced resonance nodes around the affected areas. The flare struck the shields, causing a surge of energy to ripple through the city's protective grid. Elias and the team held their positions, countering each wave with precise calculations and quick improvisation. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Every adjustment had to be precise, every decision critical. The anomaly pulsed again, faster and more erratically than before, threatening to overwhelm the defenses. Elias glanced at Lyra. We need full synchronization, trust in my adjustments, and trust in each other. Lyra extended her hand, not in a mate threshold connection, but as a symbol of partnership and confidence. Elias nodded, and together they guided the Illyrian's psychic focus to integrate with his adaptive models. The shields responded instantly, bending and flexing to contain the growing void. Finally, after an intense sequence of energy pulses, the anomaly began to stabilize. Its erratic expansion slowed, the solar flares diminished, and nearby systems were safe. Exhaustion washed over the chamber, but so did relief. Elias leaned back, breathing heavily, aware that humanity's contribution had made the difference. Lyra approached him, her expression full of respect and something akin to wonder. You have done more than predict or stabilize. You have changed the way we approach challenges. Your species teaches us that flexibility and courage are as important as precision and knowledge. Elias felt the truth in her words. Humanity had once been underestimated, seen as unpredictable and fragile. Yet time and again, their adaptability, creativity, and moral courage had allowed them to overcome what others considered impossible. Days passed, and the Illyrians formally recognized humanity's role in averting the crisis. Humans were invited to participate in planning and exploration missions across multiple systems, their methods increasingly valued for their unique perspective. Elias continued to guide these missions, blending human ingenuity with Illyrian precision to map new star systems, predict energy fluctuations, and uncover hidden phenomena. During a quiet moment on one of the floating observation decks, Elias spoke with Lyra. "Do you think humans can ever fully cross the mate threshold?" he asked. Lyra considered him carefully. "Perhaps not in the traditional sense, but you have crossed something more important, the threshold of perception and understanding. You have shown that humans are capable of bridging minds and methods, creating outcomes that neither species could achieve alone." Elias nodded, absorbing her words. Humanity had proven its worth, not through dominance or brute strength, but through collaboration, courage, and ingenuity. He realized that the universe was vast, full of challenges and opportunities, and that humanity's potential was limitless when guided by these qualities. Weeks later, a new mission emerged. A distant planet showed signs of unstable energy fields that threatened to disrupt nearby systems. Elias led a joint team of humans and Illyrians to investigate. Using the lessons learned from previous crises, they approached the planet's anomalies with both precision and flexibility, adapting to shifting conditions in real time. The mission tested every skill Elias had honed: observation, adaptation, leadership, and the ability to integrate human improvisation with Illyrian coordination. Together, they navigated the unstable fields, discovered natural resources, and mapped previously unknown planetary systems. Humanity's role was no longer peripheral. It had become essential. Lyra stood beside Elias as they reviewed the data from the mission. "You have transformed what we thought possible," she said. "Humans are not just guests in the galaxy. You are partners, innovators, and protectors. You remind us that courage and creativity are as vital as knowledge and precision." Elias smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility and pride. Humanity had come far, yet the journey was only beginning. The stars stretched endlessly before them, each one a possibility, a challenge, or a promise. And he knew that humans, with their ingenuity, courage, and empathy, were ready to meet it. As the intrepid Horizon prepared for its next mission, Elias took a moment to look back at the Illyrian city. The mate threshold still stood, a symbol of challenge and potential, but it no longer seemed insurmountable. Humanity had proven that even the most formidable barriers could be approached, understood, and influenced by those willing to act with courage, creativity, and cooperation. Elias felt a deep sense of purpose. Humanity had a place among the stars, not just as explorers or observers, but as collaborators and innovators capable of shaping the galaxy in meaningful ways. The universe awaited, full of unknowns and adventures, and he would ensure that humanity met them with the same ingenuity and bravery that had brought them this far. As the ship lifted off, Elias glanced at the horizon one last time. The Illyrians watched silently, their expressions a mixture of respect and acknowledgement. Humanity had arrived not through force, but through the qualities that made them unique: courage, creativity, and the willingness to face the impossible. The stars stretched before him, endless and full of promise. Humanity's journey had only just begun, and Elias Varn would be at the forefront, guiding them toward new horizons, new discoveries, and new opportunities to prove that the impossible was only the beginning.